Injuries, lineup changes, guys getting promoted to power play 1, guys getting demoted down to line 3. There are a ton of changes that happened over the last week of fantasy hockey, and I'm here to provide you with all those changes. So guys, like I always say, you can just skip this part at this point. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the content. As always, we're going to start off with some of the injuries that have either happened last week or we have further updates. So the Austin Matthews injury continues to be a little bit of a concern right now. I know there's been a lot of talk with people in fantasy trying to trade Matthews. To me, I still think you need to be holding him unless you're getting a top 5 to 7 player in return. So with Matthews right now, it looks like it has been a lingering injury. He came out with some news saying that this was a problem in preseason. It got better and then eventually got worse as the season progressed. He flew out to Germany, spent 5 days there, but it looks like he is practicing and they do think that he could return as early as this week. So if you're an Austin Matthews holder and people are trying to make trades to acquire him from you, I still think it's worth trading. I don't think we have any indication right now in terms of what the injury actually is. I know he dealt with that wrist injury a couple of years ago and his goal scoring was down quite a bit, but then last season he put up 69 goals. So it's going to be interesting to see the development here for Austin Matthews, but there are a lot of interesting players that are benefiting because of the Matthews injury. I know they have a weak schedule next week, and I'm just going to touch on those players a little bit later in the video. Moving on here, we have Kirill Kaprizov with a lower body injury. I'm a little sad right now. I'm a little salty. I'm a little biased because of it. I do have a future on him to win the Hart this season at plus 2,500. He was the favorite prior to his injury, so hopefully he comes back and starts to light it up. But right now, he's currently considered day-to-day. There's going to be more news to come. Typically, news gets released on Monday, and maybe you can leave a comment below. Maybe I can release this video on Tuesday once we see some of those injury updates that happen on Monday. But for right now, he's just considered day-to-day, and hopefully he gets back into the lineup as early as this week. Peter Kochetkov, I was actually watching the game live. It was kind of a crazy sequence. It was 3-on-3 overtime, and Zacharinsky drove the net. Sean Walker was defending him, and it looked like Walker just had too much of an inside lane. Kochetkov came out of the net, got hit to the head pretty hard, and came out of the game, and Spencer Martin eventually came in. So right now, we don't really have an update on the status of Kochetkov. The goalies in Carolina have been really difficult to kind of provide advice on, but I still think if you've added Spencer Martin, it's definitely worth holding him, especially with this most recent news. And if Spencer Martin's available, you're going to be getting a guy on a top 3 team in Carolina. So I think there's a lot of interest there if Kochetkov is out long term. Tage Thompson here looks like he's nearing a return. He's been skating, he's been taking line rushes, but is still out of some games. So it looks like he should be back this week if all goes well. And I did mention that last week too. So hopefully with some rest days, especially with Sunday night off, maybe we see him back in the lineup as early as this week. I definitely need him in some of my leagues right now. Lastly here, we have Alex Pietrangelo. He's currently considered day-to-day with an upper body injury. I think if you own Pietrangelo, he's been very, very good to start the season so far. So I think you can just continue to stash him or hold him. I wouldn't really make any moves. The benefactor here, maybe Noah Hannafin, just extra minutes with Pietrangelo out. But I think for right now, just a guy that I would be holding or stashing on my IR if you can. Moving on to the next set of injuries here, we have Jordan Eberle with one of the most weird injuries I've seen, actually. It's a pelvis injury. It looks like he did have successful surgery, and it looks like he will be out about 3 months. I think just with how the Seattle Kraken play and how they kind of deploy their lineup, they really like to spread their minutes. So I think with Eberle here, if you own him right now in leagues, he's going to be out for 3 months. I think it's probably worth dropping at this point, but if you do have the space in your IR, you can likely stash him there. But if some of these injuries, they're occurring so fast right now. So if you have guys that you can just place in your IR to free up a roster spot and you need to move someone off of it, I think Eberle becomes a drop at that point. But for right now, he's going to be out 3 months, so it's a pretty significant injury. With Matthew Knies here, the Leafs just have no luck with their injuries right now. There's no timeline for Knies, but it's not considered long-term, so I think you should still continue to hold. He's been a very good shot and hit producer, as well as actually putting the puck in the back of the net quite a bit. So with Knies here, he's earned the trust from the coaches. Hopefully he could be back this week. I know they have a very light schedule to end November, so just something to keep in mind there. Oh man, this is probably the saddest injury for all hockey fans right now. With Alex Ovechkin, he fractured his fibula. It looks like he'll be out 4 to 6 weeks. Very, very tough news for a guy that has been extremely good in his age 39 season. A lot of people were really hoping for him to beat Gretzky's record, myself included. So hopefully he can come back and continue on the pace that he was on prior to injury. I think this is just a slight benefit to Connor McMichael, just more minutes. But we did see Jacob Chychrun was the guy who got moved up to the top power play unit. If you watch the game of the Capitals with Ovechkin out of the lineup, it looked like John Carlson was lining up in a spot. He actually has one of the hardest shots in the league, so very interesting to see the outcome there. With Zach Hyman here, I mean, it's been a very, very difficult start to the season for Zach Hyman owners. Now, right now, he has an undisclosed ailment. That was what it said. It looks like he'll be out for the next 4 to 7 days. First, this is just a weird news with an undisclosed ailment, and then the range of 4 to 7 days seems super random. So hopefully Hyman can get back in the lineup and go back to his 2023 form as soon as this week. But we'll keep an eye out for Zach Hyman's current status. Lastly, we have Frederik Andersen here. There has been a timeline now. He's went from a minor injury to a long-term injury, and it looks like he will be out 8 to 12 weeks. Very tough hold. Again, similar to Eberle, who 3 months is 12 weeks. So it's going to be difficult to make a decision on what you want to do with Andersen. I think in the short term, again, if you can stash him, similar to what I said about Eberle, I think I have more conviction to stash Andersen versus Eberle. So maybe continue to stash him your IR, but if you need a spot, 3 months is a long time to wait, and a lot can change in your fantasy team over that time. So he's a potential drop at this point in the season. Okay, moving on now to the lines and the power play updates. It's been a little bit of a mess in Philly right now, but looks like Emil Andre has been promoted to power play 1 in Jamie Drysdale's absence. He was not very good in the AHL. He's not really a highly touted prospect, but did play 24 minutes in the most recent game. So like I always say, I'm just interested in defensemen that play over 20 minutes, and if they don't, they have to be on power play 1 for me to have interest in them. So Andre hits both of those, but I think we may see Travis Sanheim move up to the top power play unit as soon as the next game. He did get a power play assist, but it looked like Andre was the one that did skate on the top power play unit in that game. So just something to monitor here. I think if you're a Travis Sanheim owner, definitely continue to hold him. He's been very, very good to start the season. I think Andre becomes more of a deeper league add, maybe 16-team leagues. I don't think yet in 14-team leagues. Now, this Brant Clark and the LA Kings situation is very interesting to me. He's one of the best, if not the best, defenseman prospect in hockey right now. And it's very, very surprising to see that they did take him off the top power play unit, even though he was doing really good to start the season. It looks like Byfield is going to be holding that spot in the top unit. In all the games last week, it wasn't Brant Clark there. It was Quinton Byfield. I still think Clark is definitely worth a hold because we can see things change very, very soon. I don't know how much longer Alex Laferriere is going to stay on the top power play unit or Quinton Byfield. But for right now, Clark's block volume and shot volume are both very, very good for a defenseman. And defensemen are very rare to come by. And I don't think you can get much value. Well, maybe you can. You could get some value trading him right now, but I still think he's worth the hold. Just not a big enough name for you to be able to move him. With Connor Zary here, it looks like he has been promoted back up to the top line and the top power play unit. I think he's worth an add in 12-plus team leagues. This team's very desperate for offense, and there's a lot of minutes to go around in that top 6 right now. So with Connor Zary, he's a very highly touted prospect. Had a very strong start to the season, was kind of demoted down to power play 2. Some of the guys got healthy, like Igor Sharangovich, took some time away from Zary on the top power play unit and in the top 6. But now with him back on the top line, it looks like he's been playing about 18 plus minutes per night, which is exactly what we want to see. The Flames are not a very offensive team, but still some interest in Connor Zary here. Now we have some updates in the Colorado Avalanche world. I did provide an update last week, and a lot has changed since then. So Casey Middlestad looks like he has the line 2 center position secured, and he's still on the top power play unit. Arturi Lehkonen here is the biggest decrease in value. It looks like he got moved down to power play 2. He's still on line 1 with McKinnon, so there's a ton of interest there. Very, very good shot and hit volume with him. And with Valeri Nichushkin here, it looks like he's still going to be playing line 2, power play 2. He did score his first goal in a 6-3 game where Paul Maurice pulled the goalie, and Nichushkin came down and buried the empty netter. So right now with Nichushkin, definitely continue to hold him if you rostered him. But I would love to see him move up to the top power play unit, but it looks like they really like Casey Middlestad there. Now the biggest benefactor here is going to be Jonathan Drouin, and we had some comments saying that Drouin's just not a good player, and I totally understand. Like, his peripherals are very, very poor. doesn't shoot the puck at a good rate, doesn't hit at all, doesn't block at all, but still the upside to play with a 100 plus point player in Nathan MacKinnon, maybe 130 at this point is what I got to be saying. And on the league's, one of the league's best power play units, I still have a lot of interest in Jonathan Drouin here. Again, it's a deployment thing with Drouin. I'm not overly interested in him as a player, but because he's skating with MacKinnon and he's on that amazing top power play unit, he's going to get some love for me in fantasy leagues. Moving on, Kent Johnson has returned back to the lineup. It is crazy to see how much this Columbus Blue Jackets team is scoring right now. I was watching the game against Carolina on Saturday, and they came back. They were down 3-1, if I'm not mistaken. They came back and won 5-4 in shootout. Looks like he's returned back to the lineup. He's skating line 2, power play 1. It looks like Adam Fantilli got demoted down to power play 2 and down to the second line, with Kent Johnson returning. Although Kent Johnson is playing on line 2, it's still a lot of interest on this top power play unit because this Columbus Blue Jackets team is scoring goals in bunches right now, even against some of the league's best teams in Carolina. So a lot of interest from Kent Johnson, who is having a mini breakout to start the season. Although was injured, he's back and healthy, and you need to make sure you're adding him. With Shane Pinto here, it looks like he's returned back to the lineup. He's centering Brady Tkachuk on line 1 right now. Tim Stützle's down to line 2. So with Pinto, the biggest thing here is going to be the minutes. As long as he continues to play 17 plus per night, he historically has a very solid shot rate. Again, another team that's very desperate for offense right now. So hopefully Pinto can make a statement playing on that top line with Brady Tkachuk, who we know is an absolute beast in fantasy. So we have a little bit of an update here with the Florida Panthers, a lot of changes. So Verhaeghe has been moved down to line 3. I was watching the game as well on Saturday, and it looks like Sam Bennett took reps on the top power play unit in the second half of the game, and Verhaeghe was the guy that was taken off the top power play unit. So I mean, Verhaeghe I still think is an absolute beast in fantasy, and he's a very, very strong player over the last couple of seasons. Good for Bennett owners, not as good for Verhaeghe owners, but I wouldn't panic because the Panthers seem to be changing things up just slightly over the last little bit, but their team's fully healthy, so there's a lot to love there. And lastly here, we have Aaron Ekblad, who has been promoted to the top power play unit. He did get a power play point in the first game that he was promoted there, and then also scored on the power play, but it was taken back because Matt Tkachuk's skate was in the crease, or else he would have had 2 power play points, and that ownership percentage would go up very fast. The peripherals haven't been too good right now, but as long as he continues to play those big minutes, this power play is very, very good. There's not really a lot of competition on the back end, and I'm very surprised to see that happen this late in the season. Not that it's late, but I did think it would happen maybe after 6-7 games. The Adam Boqvist experiment didn't work out. Then they tried Juvis Bolinskis, who was actually not bad on the top power play unit, but I'm happy to see Ekblad here. Definitely someone you want to be trying to roster right now. Lastly, we have Fraser Minton. Guys, I know the Leafs do not have the most favorable schedule coming up, but it looks like he has been recalled and is skating on the top power play unit with Nyes, Domi, and Matthews all out right now. So have some interest in him. They're playing tonight on Sunday night. So knowing my luck, he'll have a goal and assist, 1 on the power play. Let's see if the prediction hits here, guys. But Fraser Minton, definitely some interest. The only issue is they have a weak schedule next week, and he's just center eligible. But someone to just keep an eye on, guys, because they are giving him power play 1 reps, and we do know the Leafs have been shaking up a lot of their power play lines in the last little bit, and just got to continue to monitor the status of these players that are currently on the IR. All right, let's talk about some players who are currently breaking out. They have very strong weeks last week and had a very strong start to the season, and no other than Kent Johnson. So he did have a very good first 4 games and then went down with injury. Now he's back and is still continuing his hot streak. Through 6 games this season, 4 goals, 9 points, 3 of those points in the power play, 11 shots on goal, and 17 minutes average time on ice, which is a little bit deflated because he did leave a game early, and that did hurt his average time on ice. But in the most recent game, he played close to 20 minutes against the Carolina Hurricanes. He's playing top 6. He's playing power play 1. So a lot of love here from Kent Johnson, who is a highly touted prospect that hasn't figured it out until this year. So very, very good to see in Columbus land. And like I'm talking about, man, this team has been scoring goals like crazy. And I was just talking with one of the FP guys, like, should we toss a future on Zach Werenski? He's 150 to 1 to win the Norris right now. 20 games played, 6 goals, 20 points, 76 shots on goal, 8 points on the power play, on pace for 82 points and 311 shots as a defenseman. Now, I know Makar's a lock to win the Norris here, but I do see some value in Werenski, who has been extremely good. He had a 5-point game earlier in the week. This team is scoring in bunches right now. It's awesome to see for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And Zach Werenski, if you're able to draft him, he seems like a guy that goes super late, but knowing our luck, guys, he's going to end up having a freak injury and just be out for like 2 months. That's what always happens with them. But hopefully we see a full 82 for him for the first time in his career, and he produces the way you've hoped. Now with Owen Power here, a very interesting story. I saw a tweet, and that's why I wanted to include him in here. He currently has 15 points through 21 games, all at 5-on-5. He's number 1 for 5-on-5 points for defensemen right now, with 15 points through 21 games, 37 shots on goal and 33 blocks, almost 22 minutes average time on ice. This makes me wonder, like does he get a shot at Team Canada in the Four Nations? I'm very interested in what you guys think. I think there are a lot of really good Canadian defensemen, but still I feel like that like number 6, 7 defenseman is still a little bit open. So maybe we see Power there. It's going to be interesting to see, but he's been very good to start the season off so far. And with Anthony Cirelli here, there has been a lot of injury in the, like with Braden Point and Gensel on and off injury. And with Anthony Cirelli here, 19 games played, 8 goals, 21 points, a very poor 36 shots on goal, 2 points on the power play, but 7 goals in his last 10 games. He's skating on the top line, played with Nikita Kucherov. He's on the top power play unit, and he's been very, very good for the last little bit. So continue to monitor Anthony Cirelli, and if you want, go check his game log and look at the minutes he's playing right now. It's actually crazy to see, like 22 plus per night. So it looks like he's bolstered himself into a very, very promising role and should become an add in fantasy very, very soon, if not right now. Lastly, I definitely want to give some love to Dustin Wolf, who I still think you can probably get good odds on to win the Calder this season. 11 games started, 8 wins, a 926 save percentage, 5th best in the league, a 233 goals against average. He's a top 7 goalie right now. We just need to see more volume out of him, but it looks like he has taken the reins in the net for the Calgary Flames and has been an absolute beast. I had some doubts about Wolf. I'm not going to lie, guys. He's not a big goaltender, and I didn't think he would do well, but he's been very good. Back-to-back AHL goalie of the year. So good to see that the Calgary Flames have finally found a nice starting goaltender after they got rid of Jacob Markstrom in the offseason. And Wolf seems to be a pretty promising guy. I think if you can buy low, like not really buy low on him, but I still think his name's not big enough, and you can probably acquire him. And if you're in a keeper league, this could be a very, very interesting keeper to have long term, considering what we've seen so far in the early going of this season. Now, it's kind of premature talking about Dustin Wolf when I have the goalies central next, but still, let's talk about the Boston goalies for a minute here. So last night on Saturday was the first good start we saw from Jeremy Swayman in a while. He gave up 12 goals in his previous 2 starts. Maybe we see a reduced workload. I think a slow start was inevitable with him not signing until preseason ended, and kind of went out to a slow start to start the season. The Bruins just like aren't really scoring goals. They don't really have the offense that we've seen in the past, and the goaltending, especially with Swayman, has not been good. I think we might see a 50-50 split between him and Korpisalo, at least in the short term right now, because Korpisalo has been a very solid goalie in the last little bit. So let's just continue to monitor the situation here. As a Jeremy Swayman owner, I would not be panicking. I had one of my friends, we were out like for a skate playing hockey, and he was asking me like, what do I do with Swayman right now? I think I want to drop him. Don't drop him. This is a guy that is going to be a long-term keeper if you're in a keeper league. If you're not in a keeper league, I still think he has upside. You just got to be patient with him. I think the Bruins will end up figuring out a little bit here, but I think it may be some short-term headwinds right now. Now, moving on, I want to talk about the Toronto goalies, who are both playing great. The only issue is the 50-50 split. So if you're in category leagues, it's very beneficial to you because they're really, really helping with your goals against average and save percentage. But if you're in a points league, it's kind of tough right now because if you don't have the tandem, if you have just one of them, you're only getting maybe 1 to 2 starts a week from them. Whereas with goalies that are clear number ones are getting 3, sometimes 4 starts in a week, especially with Connor Hellebuck, who's been insane so far this season. But just want to talk about the Toronto goalies, give them a little bit of love there. Now, David Rittich, I was super, super high on the LA Kings goalies this year. I have Kemper in 4 of my 6 leagues, so not good, but good that I was able to add Rittich, who in his last 8 starts has allowed 3 goals or less. Only one of those games he allowed 3. In his last 4 games, he has not allowed more than 1 goal against. So right now with the LA Kings here and David Rittich, they're playing lockdown defense like they have done historically. They have 2 very solid centermen in Kopitar and Deneau, who are very good defensive-minded centermen, and that's kind of what you want to see on a team like the LA Kings. So with David Riddick here, he's still very low owned, and you can probably grab him on your free agency in your 10 to 12 team leagues. You go look at his game log, guys, you'll see he's been an absolute machine. Now, I wanted to talk about Thatcher Demko and the injuries, but I'm going to talk about him here. It looks like he is traveling with the team and may return this week. Very good news for those who held him. I did keep him in a keeper league because my options were him or Spencer Knight. It was just late in the season. I was in the finals. I need to add a goaltender really, really late. So those are my only two options. So I decided to keep Demko. I'm still stashing. I'm going to be hopefully activating him this week. If you've held on to him, and hopefully he produces the way he did last season. I do think because of how good Lankinen has been in the early going, we're probably going to see a 50-50 split. So again, in those category leagues, Demko should do pretty good. I think the loss to Miller does not help the case at all, but still with Demko here, hopefully returns back to the lineup, which is very good news for the Vancouver Canucks. Lastly, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Now, we know he was off to a little bit of a slow start in the season, but with Levi sent down, with Reimer as his current backup goalie, it looks like he's going to be the number one for the rest of the season. He's allowed just 12 goals in his last 7 starts. I think he has top 12 goalie upside, especially with how much volume the Buffalo Sabres give up. And with Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen here, guys, if you are able to grab him, this is probably a good time. If not, if you've held on to him, you drafted him, he should be a very, very strong goalie for the rest of the season. That will do it for the Everything Has Changed video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.